Hello, everyone, and welcome to 321 Gang's webinar, Why Change the Way You Track Requirements? My name is Kara Rawlings, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about 321 Gang before we dig in. 321 Gang are a Platinum IBM business partner and a Scaled Agile training partner. The Gang are the continuous engineering experts and an industry leader in scaling lean and agile practices. We offer our clients a powerful combination of expert IBM and SAFe consulting services, training, and software tooling solutions to accelerate and drive results in the most complex, highly regulated systems and software engineering environments. Whatever your 2022 goals, 321 Gang's engineering expertise can help. Whether you're facing regulatory, economic, or technological challenges, 321 Gang offers the most extensive catalog of industry-focused training and consulting. And we can help you with best practice guidance on staying compliant, subject matter expertise to help you stay competitive, cost-effective courses you can put into practice immediately. So talk to us today and learn how we can help deliver the solutions your team needs. And feel free to type any questions or comments in the chat box that you may have. Today, our presenter is Wade Tolles from IBM. Wade is a brand technical specialist at IBM. He has installed and supported IT and software tools environments for over 30 years at several large enterprise organizations, including IBM, the Federal Reserve Bank, Capital One, and Wade continues to utilize his experience building and supporting complex engineering tool solutions for customers on-premise and in the cloud. So Wade, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kara. Hi, everybody. As Kara said, I'm Wade Tolles. I'm an IBM brand technical specialist, and for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about requirements and why it's important to change the way you may be tracking requirements currently. Poor requirements management is the single biggest reason for project failure. Think about it. Improper requirements management can lead to disconnected teams, wasted time, out of control costs, and ultimately customers that are very unhappy. So if you're using documents or spreadsheets or emails or wikis or that kind of process to track your business, customer, or product requirements, then you're putting yourself and your customers at risk of failure. As we know, engineering teams continue to produce incredible products that, just a few years ago wouldn't even have been thought of. But the thing is, the more of those incredible products that are created, the more customers expect. I mean, think about the iPhone. I mean, it's at what, version 13 now, or a short period of time, relatively speaking. And the more and more complex these products are, and the more powerful they become, the more customers want, the more the market wants, the more the market expects. So the development teams that are creating these products are expected now to keep track not just of the stakeholder requirements or the expectations of a simple product. They're expected to keep track of far more complex requirements. So successful companies will ensure that all the stakeholders are contributing to and reviewing the requirements, that they effectively collaborate changes across all the stakeholders, both inside and outside of the organization, and that teams embrace change while understanding the impact of that change and manage increasing complexity efficiently. We've all heard the past studies that talk about how addressing requirements early in the life cycle can save time and money. But again, as projects become more complex, the more important it becomes to keep track of requirements and address issues that we find or changes that are made earlier in the process, because that cost exponentially increases the further down the line that we go. As we talked about, innovation creates more demand for innovation, and a lot of it drives those increasingly complex products. So you have to develop these requirements to describe, not just the characteristics of the requirements, but the details of the requirements, what's involved in the requirements. The development teams, to be able to compete successfully, you can't use an ad hoc tool to capture requirements. We know that for a long time, going out and jotting down requirements or keeping track of them in a Word document or a spreadsheet, it worked for a long time. But the thing is, in today's environment, in today's complex way of doing things, you have to have a solution that's designed to capture the requirements in detail. All associated material that describes the requirements, which would include any documents or videos or schematics or flow charts. The solution should also capture the associations for the requirements, who's responsible, the criticality, interactions of the requirement, the status of those requirements. All that information has to be captured along with the requirement. So whether we use an agile process, and again, the agile process is extremely important because all of these changes and all these complex products have to go to market faster and faster because we're competing with more and more companies. And the thing is, getting to market faster is how you make money. But whatever the agile process you're using, even with the safe agile process, it's very important to understand that managing requirements is critical. And because of the complexity, teams still need to embrace a more formally managed requirements process, because the cost for mismanagement of the requirements process is high, not only from the standpoint of missed market opportunity and potential rework, but also, and possibly even more importantly, from failing compliance and regulatory standards, because that can be extremely expensive. Now think about it for a minute. Just a couple of questions. Have you ever forgotten to notify everyone who needed to know about an update to some requirements? Or have you ever been in a meeting where the wrong version of a document was given out for everyone to review? Have you ever had a document or a bunch of documents that you had to pull together and merge into a single document because a whole bunch of people had been working on it? See, these are things that a lot of companies struggle with. And it again is a proof point that Office tools are the wrong tools for requirements management, because they lack the ability to create relationships, trace dependencies between requirements. They don't allow teams to collaborate in real time, and they're not designed to handle versioning and change management. And all of these issues that we see with these kinds of tools means loss of productivity, project delays, and as we mentioned before, disappointed or unhappy customers. These are some of the things that we're going to be demonstrating or talking to in a few minutes on our demonstration, because these are fundamentals that drive good requirements management: traceability, collaboration, attributes of those requirements and granularity, control and security of the requirements, the ability to understand the hierarchy of requirements and see them and even think about them in almost a document presentation or a logical presentation. And reporting on those requirements is extremely important. So the solution that we're talking about today is the IBM Engineering Requirements Management DOORS Next Generation tool. And this requirements tool helps to manage those requirements far more efficiently than any document could. It reduces the development cost by almost 60%, accelerates time to market by up to 20%. It can lower the cost of poor quality by almost 70%. You can gain transparency, minimize rework by having all the requirements in a secure, central, accessible location. You can improve the agility of your projects by more effectively prioritizing and visualizing business needs. You can improve collaboration across teams and even with the customers and suppliers with concurrent editing and automated versioning. And you have the ability to link your requirements so that you can have traceability, not just to other requirements, but to testing and to workflow and to even models. So all of these capabilities will help you to expedite your development and guarantee increased quality with automated reporting, glossaries, proven industry templates for certification and compliance. So all of this is available within the requirements management tool. We'll go a little bit beyond it just for this one slide and talk about the fact that this tool is not just a requirements tool, and I think that's a major differentiator with this solution, because a requirement is really the beginning and the end of how you create something. Somebody wants something or thinks something up, creates the requirement for that. And then that something has to be testable. So if somebody says, I want to do something, well, what do you want to do? And what are the details of what you're asking for? That's a very important part of requirements. So the ability to link your requirement and your request to a test validates that it is a valid requirement. So traceability between the requirement and the test case, that requirement has to be worked on. Something has to be done with that requirement. So a workflow has to be connected to that requirement. Whoever's working on it needs to know what they're working toward and how they're going to be tested. So having that work item linked to the requirement and the test is very important. And if you're creating models for a system that you're engineering, the ability to understand what is the requirement of the project, what is the work that is being done on this, and how is this system model being tested, all tied into this solution, is very important and is part of what the engineering lifecycle management suite of tools provides to customers. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and that's the kind of the end of our slides for the moment. And we'll show how the tool works, some of the features. And to give you an idea and just give you kind of a quick agenda of some of the things we're going to talk about, our demonstration today is, I don't know, about 15 or 20 minutes. It's not going to be long, but these are some of the key points we're going to talk about. Dashboards and reporting, which is very important. Control and security, attributes and granularity, traceability and collaboration. And then I'm going to show you how easy it is to import a Word document into the requirements tool so that you can gain all of those benefits that we're going to be showing at the beginning of the demonstration. All right, so what I'm looking at here, just so everybody knows, is this is a lab that is available to anybody who would like to experiment with these tools and understand how they work better. It's from the IBM Quick Start environment. All of the things that I'm showing you today, you can see at some point if you're interested in seeing these. So just let us know if you're interested in looking into this deeper after this presentation. To access the Doors Next Gen or Engineering Requirements tool, it is a web-based tool. So we simply open our browser, whatever your browser of choice is, and log into the tool. What I've done is I've created a very basic sandbox project. We'll talk about project creation at another time, but it takes about a minute or two to create a life cycle project. But we're going to jump out of that because the only reason I created that is to show you the import of the document. So what I want to do, though, is show you a much more filled project, one that's been fleshed out a whole lot better than what I've just created there. And again, all this information is available to you as examples or sample information of what you can do and reports. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is the dashboard and reporting. And I've picked the infusion pump requirements dashboard because it is so well done. All of these widgets that you see, first of all, are easily added simply by clicking the add widget. And you're not limited, as you'll see in a minute, to just the requirements dashboard. You can pull reports and information in from any tool that is connected to the JAS environment, even external tools that can be available through the OSLC capability of the tool. Full object linking and connecting to friend tools or applications. So all that information is available to you at the click of a button and can be imported and utilized in planning sessions and reporting and review of the environment. There's a wide variety and capability of things that you can see and report on within the tool, whether it's the requirement progress, the requirement status, information on the testing, the verification, and the validation of the reports, down to even understanding what your system model looks like and where you are in the process of creating the system environment. So just as a thought, I was in a meeting one time that, we've got customers, for example, that look at the tools mainly because of the ease of reporting. Because think about how difficult it is to go through a month, perhaps a month-end report on the status of a project, gather all the documents that are associated with your month-end report, pull all the information that's pertinent to what you're looking at, make sure you've got the most recent information available, and put that all in a spreadsheet or a document someplace, and then you present that to your management or your team. That takes companies weeks sometimes to put that information together, while This information is available instantly on a dashboard that's created customizably by you for your team. I was in a meeting, I was in a meeting one time where a project manager was demonstrating this tool to the team. And as he's talking through his demonstration, kind of like what I'm doing, a screen pops up, one of the little icons pops up on his widget, and it had a little red flag on it. And he says, he stopped the meeting. He said, hold on a second, I've got to go check on this. This is important. So he walked away, got on his phone, walked away, came back 5 minutes later. He said, I'm sorry, I had to fix that. That's the power of these dashboards and the ability to dynamically create this information and these reports on the fly, as in this information is available, updated all the time. So the weeks that it takes to gather this information, that doesn't happen anymore. It's all right here on the screen. You can pop that up in front of your team and talk about the pertinent events that are up to date right now. Very, very powerful tool or capability of this tool. Now we'll talk a minute about the control and security. There's a couple of different levels of control in the tool. First of all, at the very start of the tool or opening of the tool and how it's configured to begin with, the access to the tool is controlled either by the system, the Liberty application server, or from your Active Directory. This repository permissions section right here is typically controlled by your Active Directory and groups within your Active Directory. This area would then be grayed out, and you'd see that you have access to various groups or permissions, but you wouldn't be able to change that from within the tool. That's kind of the first level of defense, is even accessing the tool is controlled at your Active Directory. The other way is, and from the licensing perspective, is that access into the applications and ability to modify or read information is granted per license. So if a user doesn't have a license to get into the tool, again, they don't have access to the tool. But that's at a high level, very basic level of security. Each project, however, is also very secure in that they can be configured by roles and permissions. And it's not just this tool, it's all the lifecycle tools, but by default, the requirements tool has 4 roles: administrator, author, commenter, and configuration lead. And these are out-of-the-box roles, which are assigned specific permissions that everyone has specific access and capabilities of reading. So if someone has a license to see the tool and the ability to get into the project, then they may be able to see a link or modify a link if they're granted access to a comment or something to that effect. But only administrators have access to other things, such as modifying change sets. Authors have specific access to other capabilities. Commenters have very limited access, and each role has limited access based on the need for that role. Each of the roles, or rather roles, are also customizable. You can modify those, or you can create new roles based on previous roles and assign access and permission based on roles. So very powerful capabilities in terms of control and security. Now, if we go back to our project and let's look at attributes and the granularity of these requirements and what we can do with that as well. So if we look at our artifacts within our infusion pump product and look at the module that talks about the requirements, we'll see here that there are a series of requirements in a view. We can see that in various views and look at them in a hierarchical view or a requirements view in various ways of seeing this set of requirements. But if we select one of these requirements or any of them, we'll note on the right that they all have a series of attributes that are assigned to them. So even further than just the contents or the description or the information that we're looking at in the requirement of what that's doing, we also know or can know who the owner is, the risk of the requirement, the priority of the requirement, the status of the requirement, all kinds of different attributes. And these are customizable. This is from a specific template. But if we want to see even more or understand more about that, we can also go into the properties of the project and modify not just the types of things that we're seeing in the requirement, but also the attributes of those requirements or artifacts. So even this is customizable to your needs out of the box. It works fantastic. But if you want to see different information or additional information, that's very easy to do, and we'll see that in a few minutes. The other thing that we want to talk about is traceability, and this is a very, very powerful point that I think is extremely important. Note that this particular requirement, there's several of them here that are noted as with a little question mark here, and that means that this particular link is suspect because something's been changed. Now, we could mark this as valid or invalid right here, but we really don't want to do that. And why is that? Well, if we were capturing these in a document, and we may have the ability to say, okay, this requirement is satisfied by this thing, and we could note that on the document somewhere. But if something changed, then we would only know what was related to that particular relationship. With the requirements tool, however, we have the ability to go a little bit deeper than that. In fact, a whole lot deeper than that. So yes, it is satisfied by that requirement, but let's take a look and see how far along we are in this development process of this project by going deep, as deep as we can on the levels here. So what we're seeing here is that the change that we're seeing, the suspect link that we're seeing right here at the surface level is not just at the surface level. It is a very extensive issue here that could be going on, where we have to look way deeper than that one requirement, because if you think about it, anything that would come up in terms of a bug in our tool, or scope creep later on, or something that isn't working properly, or whatever problem we have downline, can very easily be related to anything in this whole subset of associated requirements or artifacts related to that initial requirement. So obviously something here has changed or has been implemented by, we can see that relates back to that original requirement, and then that requirement relates downline to all of these different requirements. So we can see not just the relationship of the first requirement that we were looking at and the requirement or the artifact that satisfied the requirement, but we now have the ability to trace all the way down to see what's going to happen if we make that requirement, or if we've made some sort of change rather to that requirement, and the impact that change has on the entire project potentially. So very, very powerful tool, very powerful view. Think about how long it would take if you're just using documents and spreadsheets to identify this level of impact for any change that you make to a single requirement. Finally, we'll look at this from the standpoint of the collaboration. We know that at this stage, we've got something going on here. We have the ability within these requirements tools to collaborate with the team. Now, reviews are one thing we can go to, at some point in the future, we'll talk more in depth about reviews and formal reviews and how that also contributes to the project stability and the audit. But at a very surface level, think about it. When you're working on a project and you're looking at something, if you're working on a document, you may go by somebody's desk and say, hey, look, I just found this problem. We need to find out about this. Or when you're talking over lunch, you have something you scribbled down on a piece of paper that you need to look into something. Or you call somebody or email them or text them, whatever you do to normally communicate. All that is good, and it's good to collaborate in those ways, but none of it's traceable. None of it is auditable. From the tool, you can actually go in and create a comment and send that comment to another team member. So if this is a problem, we can say, validation issue, and then identify there's a problem here, and say what that issue is, and ask for help with that. Once we've identified that, we can then direct that to any number of users on our team. Certainly, we've got a list of users that we normally, or of team members rather, that we normally associate with, but we can actually send this out to other, even stakeholders, other stakeholders, to ask for help in identifying what's going on here. Once we add those members to the project, we can go in, identify that person, add Tony to the list, and then say, hey, this is a big deal. Of course, everything's a high priority, but when we're talking about something that's that deep into the development cycle, it is a high priority because we want to find out what's going on. When you hit OK, the tool then sends that out as an email. It also will place that on Tony's dashboard. So that's the first thing Tony will see when he logs into the tool. So we can communicate with that. One more benefit of that, and again, that we talked about briefly, is the ability to audit that and understand. If we go into this requirement, for example, now, and we look at the audit history of that, we can open the history of that requirement and see all the everything that has happened on that tool, including the comments, any replies to the comment. So if we've sent this information out to a team member or a manager and requested their help with this, and we've gotten comments back, and we've, whatever that is, we now have an audit trail of the level of effort we've spent in tracking this issue down, modifying this issue, or whatever the case may be. Even if it's a matter of at the beginning of a project, you ask for a manager approval on something, and you're given that approval in the comment. 6 months down the line, the manager asks you, why did you do that? You can go back and say, okay, well, go back in here earlier. We've got a comment here. You said go this route. So a lot of capability, a lot of power in the ability to comment and trace those comments. Now, the final thing that we wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to show you guys how to do, is how easy it is to import a document into this tool. And that's where we created this sandbox project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a document. I just went out to the internet and found the document that I could grab and downloaded it. It's some sort of environmental product. The important thing about the document is it has a bunch of stuff in it that I wanted to show. It's a 45-page document. It's got, like, I don't know, 10,000 characters in it, something like that. It's got some pictures in it, but more importantly, it's got some artifact types that we want to look at. All right, so we want to be able to import this document and understand this document in the requirements tool. Now, to do that, what I've done is I've gone in and because these are non-standard types of artifacts, I've just gone into the tool and I've allowed the tool to be able to see those artifacts as they are described. So each one of these has been brought in, design and implementation constraint, user classes and characteristics. I picked a bunch of those types and added those to the tool. Now what we do is we can simply go into the requirements tool and import that document as an artifact, and then take the requirements from within that text document and bring them into the tool. So we'll add the file, and then we're going to import that into a module. Now, the reason we're going to do that is documents are notoriously non-standard. If we were importing a spreadsheet, then we could just import the requirements into the tool and one-on-one individually strip the attributes from the spreadsheet or whatever the spreadsheet was giving us and grab those and bring those right into the tool. Pretty standard. But from a document perspective, we're looking at a whole lot different way of thinking through this. And again, it's more of a logical progression in a document format. So we're going to name this particular module demo, and we'll call it Demo Stewards. And because I don't have a requirements specification document type in here, I'm going to use this as a supporting resource type. And then we can define each part of this document. Now, this document doesn't have headers that are defined as headers. It's a bunch of text that's in different sizes. We're going to bring images in as graphical artifacts. But note here our keywords we've actually got in here to identify the various types of information we want to bring in, and we're now going to associate those with artifact types within the tool. Finally, we're going to say anything that's not defined by the keywords or the headings of the images, it's just going to be a supporting resource at this point. When we hit next, the tool is going to go out, scan that document and all of the characters, and then it's going to identify what is an artifact and specifically what are the types of artifacts that we created. It's brought in 30 graphical images. It's brought in 6 design and implementation constraints, which is about what we expected if we looked at the document. Now, it also gives us a warning here. So we want to look at that and see, is this something that we would expect? And sure enough, drawings are converted to images, and these are simply graphical images that we're able to import now. So that's fine the way it is. We're going to look at that, and we're now going to say finish. Again, this is a 45-page document. It's got over 10,000 characters in it, and it's found 478 artifacts. And within just a few seconds, the tool has gone through, it's created all the artifacts, it's created a module, It's segregated that information out and put that in a logical progression. And note what our imported document looks like. It should look very familiar. Here we have exactly what we would expect from that document, because it is going to contain all the information in that document. Go back to our document. Sure enough, that is what our document looked like. All right, so we've imported the document. Well, what have we done automatically when we did that though? Well, if we scroll down a little bit to the user classes and characteristics, all of these keywords that we identified, note on our attributes that these are identified as the type which we defined. So if we've got a document that has hundreds or thousands of requirements and we import that document, we have the ability to immediately have all of those requirements identified, segregated out, and called out in the tool. And then we can go through and we can sort on those. We can create views which show the associations of those. We can then tie this document or individual requirements to other artifacts, including stakeholder documents, including test cases, including work items. An entire life cycle of development is now available at our fingertips very easily by importing that document in just a minute or two into our requirements management tool. That is the end of the demonstration today of the tool. We can certainly expand on that at some point with your questions, if you have any questions or want to get deeper into it. But in conclusion, just going to say that requirements now are needed more than ever, because our environment has become so complex, and there's so many things that people want and want to see in the products that they're buying. I mean, think about it. Your refrigerator. There's refrigerators out there that identify the groceries you have in the refrigerator and when you're low on milk, and can actually automatically go out to the internet and order a gallon of milk for you to be delivered to your door. I mean, who would have known that your refrigerator would be that smart? But that's where we are in the Internet of Things these days. So, just because we need to be agile, just because we need to go to market with better products faster, that's not reducing the need for requirements. That is drastically increasing the need for better requirements. And the IBM Engineering Requirements Management Doors Next tool is here and can satisfy those needs very thoroughly and very well. Thank you so much for your time. If you've got any questions about this, please feel free to contact our friends at the gang, or you can email me. I'm at kenneth.tolles@ibm.com. That's my LinkedIn. That's how to get to me from LinkedIn. So feel free to contact me through LinkedIn or email or through the gang. Kara, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you guys very much.
Well, thank you so much, Wade. That was fantastic. So as Wade said, that concludes our presentation, and we did record the session. It will be available for playback at 321gang.com under our resources tab soon, and we'll be sending out an email with the link. You can share with your colleagues and watch it as many times as you'd like. So for more information, as Wade said, you can email Wade directly, or you can email 321gang at info@321gang.com. Thank you all for your time. Thanks for attending. Bye-bye.